She should have taken the buyout. Mary Comans just got doged. The CFO of FEMA got caught going behind Trump's back. 47 signed an executive order that was very clear. And this lady says, watch this. I'm going to send $60 million to Manhattan so Biden migrants can keep staying at luxury hotels. Musk caught her red-handed. Mary should have known FEMA was on shaky ground. Trump just said the agency should be terminated. Just last year, FEMA got caught skipping homes with Trump yard signs. And Mary thought it'd be a good idea to sneak $60 million to migrants. Trump's famous for saying you're fired. This lady's out of her mind. And now she's out of a job. Read the room, Mary. The whole government's being audited. The Department of Education's being actively dismantled. The Dozers are in the building on the 6th floor, canceling grants and contracts. Nearly $1 billion of wasteful contracts were ripped up yesterday. Like this one. A contractor was paid $1.5 million to observe mailing and clerical operations at one mail center. This guy was observing mail being opened and being sent for $1.5 million. This is the kind of no-show job a mob boss gives their cousin. Doge also terminated 29 DEI training programs at the Department of Education worth over $100 million. That comes to $3.5 million for each training program. Most of you've gone through DEI training programs. You're, in with HR for an hour? Maybe it's just an online course. Cha-ching, $3.5 million. What? I should have been a DEI consultant. One DEI session trained teachers to force students to recognize their privilege and their history of oppression. Half the classroom can't read, but this is what they're doing. Doge just shredded 18 contracts at the Department of Agriculture. One of them was for Central American Gender Assessment Consultant Services. We were paying a guy in El Salvador to assess gender. What does that have to do with agriculture? Here's another one. Forest and Gender Consultant Services in Brazil. Or this. The Women in Forest Carbon Initiative Mentorship Program. You go, girl. Elon says Doge also canceled a $17 million contract to provide tax policy advice to Liberia. $17 million to help Africans do their taxes. We even paid college tuition for Al-Qaeda. We gave a jihadi a full ride to Colorado State. Here's how the shell game works. You get taxed. Congress sends your money to a federal agency. The agency sends it to a Democrat nonprofit. The nonprofit president takes a fat salary, sends some of it to a subcontractor, and donates the rest to Democrats.
I see a lot of kickback here.
There's a lot of kickbacks.
A tremendous kickback, because nobody could be so stupid to give out some of these contracts,
Yes.
so he has to get a kickback. So that's what I got elected for, that and borders and military and a lot of things, but this is a big part of it. And I hope that the court system is going to allow us to do what we have to do. We got elected to among other things, find all of this fraud, abuse.
We're $36 trillion in debt. Money's flying out the window. None of the departments can pass an audit.
The reason that departments can't pass audits is because the payments don't have a categorization code. It's like just a massive number of blank checks just flying out the building. So you can't reconcile blank checks. You've got comment fields that are also blank, so you don't know why the payment was made. And then we've got this truly absurd, a do not pay list, which can take up to a year for an organization to get on a do not pay list. And this, we're talking about terrorist organizations, we're talking about known fraudsters, known aspects of waste, known things that do not match any congressional appropriation, can take up to a year to get on the list, and even once on the list is not used. It's mind-blowing.
We're literally sending out blank checks that no one can track with no explanation. It's like the system's designed to perpetuate fraud, from USAID to Social Security.
There's crazy things like just cursory examination of Social Security, and we've got people in there that are 150 years old. Now, do you know anyone who's 150? I don't. Okay. They should be on the Guinness Book of World Records. They're missing out. So, that's a case where, I think they're probably dead. It's my guess. Or they should be very famous, one of the two. And then there's a whole bunch of Social Security payments where there's no identifying information. Well, why is there no identifying information?
Why did it take Musk to find out all this fraud? Social Security administrators are dealing, how should I say this nicely, with people who are about to die. Shouldn't they know around when people usually die? If you're still sending checks to a 150-year-old, nothing rings a bell. If the check hasn't been cashed in 50 years, that's a problem. And if the check has been cashed, that's a problem. Here's why nothing's ever done. Listen.
Really, everything is geared towards complaint minimization. So then you understand the motivations. So if people receive money, they don't complain, obviously. But if people don't receive money, they do complain. And the fraudsters complain the loudest and the fastest. They approve all the payments at Treasury. Because if you approve all the payments, you don't get complaints. But now we're saying that, no, actually, we are going to complain. If money is spent badly, if your taxpayer dollars are not spent in a sensible and frugal manner, then that's not okay. Your tax dollars need to be spent wisely on things that matter to the people. I mean, these things, it's just common sense.
The complaint system runs Washington. Anytime you try to cut anything, the Democrats, the media, the lobbyists, the NGOs, they all complain. So for about a century, Washington's basically like, okay, we'll just keep sending the money. Washington forgot how to say no. And now every woman in the Amazon rainforest who claims they're a climate consultant gets your money. Do you ever wonder how people work for the government and get so rich?
We do find it sort of rather odd that there are quite a few people in the bureaucracy who have ostensibly a salary of a few $100,000, but somehow manage to accrue tens of millions of dollars in net worth while they are in that position, which is, what happened at USAID. We're just curious as to where it came from. Mysteriously, they get wealthy. We don't know why. Where does it come from? And I think the reality is that they're getting wealthy at the taxpayer expense. That's the honest truth of it.
Millions of bureaucrats were working for the federal government, working from home, and they never wanted to leave. I wonder why. One reason is because they have it too good, but there was another reason. They weren't allowed to leave.
This is actually, I think, a great anecdote, because we're told the most number of people that could retire possibly in a month is 10,000. We're like, well, why is that? Well, because all the retirement paperwork is manual on paper. It's manually calculated, then written down on a piece of paper. Then it goes down a mine. And like, what do you mean a mine? Like, yeah, there's a limestone mine where we store all the retirement paperwork. And the limiting factor is the speed at which the mine shaft elevator can move determines how many people can retire from the federal government. And the elevator breaks down sometimes, and then nobody can retire. Doesn't that sound crazy? There's like 1,000 people that work on this. So I think if we can take those people and say, like, you know what, instead of working in a mine shaft and carrying manila envelopes to, boxes in a mine shaft, you could do practically anything else, and you would add to the goods and services of the United States in a more useful way.
Here's the government mine, where we house our paperwork because we won't computerize it like the rest of the world. We have 700 people working in an underground tunnel. What are we, Hamas? It's not like it's a top secret bunker. It's just where we keep Mark McGonagall's retirement folder from the Department of Commerce. How are we just finding out about this? There wasn't one whistleblower who was like, hey, Washington Post, I commute to work down a 200-foot mine shaft every day, and there's no computers down here. We do everything with a Bic pen. I can't breathe, and my hand's falling off. I'm literally being shafted. Didn't we pass labor laws in the 40s against this? And Democrats are supposed to be pro-labor. Shouldn't they want to save these workers from these backwards conditions? No. The Democrats want to keep the limestone mine open.